How y'all guys doing, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, we kicking in with another show tonight. Current events and politics, Friday show. Time to get started. Let's go. Welcome back to the Willis Podcast. How you guys doing, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, we are live tonight. Yeah, excuse me, but yeah, we got a good show tonight. Current events and politics, Friday show. Might do a little screen sharing for you tonight too, if we get there. That's for sure. But anyway, I want to talk about a few things. All this this so-called nuance that that everybody's trying to act like it's a nuance. Um, what we are at is we had a precipice in America. Let me get Jordan showing. Yeah. You already know what it is. I gotta get MJ in there. You know how I gotta go. You watch the show, you already know what it is. But I gotta do with MJ. MJ got to be present. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. Current events and politics show. Man, we're gonna get into some current events. Let's go to Politico. Let me see what we got here. Let me go to my other browser real quick. See what we got to look at. See what we got to look at tonight. Let's minimize some shit. For real. What's new? Gotta see what's going on. Okay. Let's see what we got going on in the news. Let's see what everybody's doing globally. We're gonna make a little different. We're gonna have a little different experience tonight. All right, let's get into some sharing. Let's share. Let's get into some sharing from Politico. Let's see what we got here. Okay. See if this is the right option. I don't use this option that often, but we're gonna see what we're gonna look like tonight. Shall we? Hold on. Hold on, peoples. Maybe share the screen. Oh, let me try this. I'm sorry. There we go. Over here. That's too much. Let's see here. All right. I'm coming from homes. Video. Mm-hmm. Trying to view Yep. Just a different screen. That's just gonna do that wild shit. Put on loud. Let me see here. Ah, damn, boy, this stuff. My shit's acting kind of slow. Get back up here with it. The actual video. How to do that? Yeah, we'll share this on another. Because I can't share that screen. So I'm going to stop share that screen with something. With another. But anyway, to the show. This current event show, politics show. Hold on, I got my brother Yeah. What's going on, my brother? I'm on the Wheel List podcast. I'm on the Wheel List podcast, man. What's going on with you? Yeah, I'll call you back. Yeah, we'll do. Yep. All right, so let me stop sharing this screen here. Stop sharing. On that screen right there. So I have to do that when I set it up. But check it out. When I was talking earlier, I don't do a whole lot of that stuff anyway because I don't really want to be charged or fucked with over intellectual property. So I prefer to just discuss situations, share to you my perspective from what I have, from what I've gathered. You can agree, disagree. It really doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, I bet you at some point in time, you would think about what I said about that particular situation. But I'll tell you this, gather is that the idea of neo-colonialism, that's specifically what Stephen Miller and his little whole regime is practicing. And, he's got his little sycophant buddies like Marco Rubio and all these different Republicans that are really just some trash ass people, man. They are the worst of the worst of society. Democrats aren't too far behind them, but I really just want to focus on where, what they do with the money and how they themselves and how, they only partake into politics when it's only beneficial for a said class, which is real fucked up, to be quite honest with you. It's kind of it's extreme, very extreme. But I'm gonna tell you, current events and politics. I told you a long time ago, politics is multiple bloodsuckers. That's who they are. Multiple bloodsuckers. That's what they are. They in the game for themselves, and that's just how that go. Right now, if you look at all the current events of what's going on in the world, you got to think about all of the distractions. This regime is doing everything in its power to distract you. I mean, creating all kinds of catastrophes just to keep people's attention off the Epstein files, just to kind of deter you from, understanding, what they're really trying to sign into law. You have people that are, really going forth into trying to cover up for really sick, really fucking sick people, and they're signing on for it. They're not trying to put forward. They're trying to do everything to deviate away from actually giving messages to those young ladies because that's what they like. It's still going on. It's this they're not they don't plan on changing. They don't plan on deviating or doing anything different. That's something that the people collectively have to do. All this wrongdoing, hell, you say it's so bad now, but all of these particular situations have happened to people, melanated people globally. It just when it happens to white people, it's a problem. Like that's where it's like all of the alarms are coming off, are coming out. All of the alarms are going off. All of the alarms are going off because certain people are having a hard time. Well, join the club. Everybody else have had a hard time because you deemed us to have a hard time. Can't you be honest and just say we had to deal with this backlash because of America chose he wasn't a black president. He was a teller president. He was a fake. He wasn't a foundational black American president. He was a lot of things, but he wasn't for us. So I don't know why you felt like America has to pay when we paid enough, even with him being in office. Yes, Barack Obama. He was the only thing he was ever good for was hope, the image, that it can happen. But at the end of the day, he was not for black Americans. He is not a black American. He's an African American by at best description. So the reason why we understand this now is because of delineation. The reason why we understand now is because of delineation. Because Barack Obama, people were saying, what is he going to do for black people? What is he going to do? He already told black people, I'm not the president for you. I'm a president for all Americans. And we said, oh, it's like that. Damn. Okay. So we already knew we was in for the game. We already knew we weren't going to get nothing from this clown, this cat. And then he comes around and he still tries to discipline or says, use certain mannerisms and certain, he props himself up. And that doesn't work either. So, the Democratic Party as a is a total it's a shit show. It's a way for black internationals, That's what that was for. That was a pivot into that game. And I have no problem with, people's progress and I have no problem with, people, moving ahead in their lives and doing what they have to do, but there's a way to do any and everything. There's a way to do any and everything. And most of all, as I always say on this show, it starts with respect. Jesus. Yeah, everything starts with respect, but it's easy to be arrogant and act as if what you learned or what you thought you learned about America was even true or factually true or even at any cost true. But you never got a chance to know the residing class of people that exist here. You assume you assume, you make complete assumptions about black Americans. You think you know our story. So you go to YouTube and you go to Googling the history of us and thinking that suffices or that means you know something. Nah, not even a little bit. See, the problem with all of this is the fact that even when you talk about the scholars, they was given the opportunity to choose the perspective and how they wanted the history to come across. Pretty much. That was the choice. He was able to choose how you wanted that history to come across. So making the knowing the fact that we had a relationship with Africa before European arrival, you know, that gave a very gray area and a very gray segue to giving a lot of power to Africa because it was a bigger continent. But in all actuality, they never overlooked the Aboriginal Black Americans, but they allowed that story to get extremely complacent and they kind of degraded it and allowed the Siberian to come into that vacuum. So when the Siberian came into that vacuum, it was more so of a Pan-Africanist type of ideological perspective that they wanted blacks globally to buy into, and it never developed. It didn't develop because of the vitriol, the hatred, the animosity, and the absolute admiration in some aspects of the Black American. And that is denied so much for no good reason at all, but it just so happened to be so. Why? Shit, I don't know. Oh, yeah, I do. You know, when you have a people that has been that took, every opportunity to elevate themselves beyond measure and to always keep the frame of mind and frame of reference of dignity and knowledge of self, we were able to even educate Africa about Africa over and over again. You don't ever see Africans writing the books about Africa unless you were Frantz Fanon, and he's an Algerian. You know, the wretch of the earth, how the Algerian claimed his presence and his dominance, but also was dominated by sheer, evil. See, the problem with a lot of Western ideology is they mask their evil deeds. You act as if you were explorers and discoverers, which no, you were conquerors and thieves and murderers and annihilators, and people that destroyed and took, deceived, decimated cultures and civilizations. That's what the Caucasian and the Caucasoid Arabian races did as well. It was the search and seek for power, something that you would never experience simply because you never had the skill sets to run anything. So your rage and your hatred for the Aboriginal, blessed Aboriginal, melanated one, was a supreme problem for you, which is why you have always taken the position of recreating stories that are myth to you that are actual for me, things that are actually in my DNA, things that have actually happened in the total human lexicon of history. So that brings about a different understanding, and you have to reevaluate what you think you know, because what you think you know is just what you were told. It's not what you have researched. What you think you know is something that just you don't know. It's something that you only believe. I never said belief was bad, horrible, but in all actuality, belief is a gift of a lie. That's what belief is. Lie sits in the middle of the word. That makes it a specific lie. That's what belief is. You don't have to believe me or take my word for it, but it spells itself. What I wanted to get with you tonight was the hidden cities. Praise for hidden cities. This book is going to astound people. It's going to give them a past that they have never imagined and challenge them to a future they have forgotten how to dare to dream. It is a work of impeccable, implaceable scholarship, but it's even more a work of mystery and redemption. So let's get into a little bit of this. We're going to talk about natural history and what we was going to talk about. We're going to talk about where do I want to start with this? Bloody years ain't ruined. All right, let's get into George Washington, his land, its inhabitants, and the Cincinnatian solution. Now you know I got a bunch of people from Cincinnati. You understand what I'm saying? So check me out. This is chapter 5, by the way, of Hidden Cities, the discovery and the loss of ancient North American civilizations by Roger G. Kennedy. Again, this is chapter 5. Here's the book again, ladies and gentlemen. All right. George Washington had more firsthand knowledge of the American West and of the inhabitants than any other president of the United States before Andrew Jackson. He owned more important geological sites than any other president, but also, he owned more importantly archaeological sites than any other president anytime. Like Albert Gallatin and Thomas Jefferson, he advocated scientific exploration of the ancient architecture of America, though he had less opportunity than they to pursue the subject himself. His policies with regard it into the living. Oh yeah, here we go. His policies with regard to living Indians were those of a man who's had friends among them, had fought beside them, and respected their ways. Washington advocated neither the obliteration of Indian culture nor their assimilation, but instead the appointment of the interior to the North American continent into the vast reservations. Here in 1749, 1750, and 1752, Washington explored the valleys between the Blue Ridge and the Rocky Highlands, marking the Continental Divide. In 1753, on the first military mission, he went all the way over into the upper reaches of Ohio watershed, serving as a spy and messenger for the governor of Virginia. He delivered an ultimatum to the French, demanding that they and their Indian allies abandon their post and village on the upper reaches of Ohio. Though he saw many ruins of ancient buildings, he was not able to give them much attention. He was in enemy territory on a mission of provocation, the perils of his position, and it demonstrated that in and killed its leader. The his own to withdraw in 1754 at Fort Necessity, Washington, his first personal military feat, his worst until the series of disasters in and around the city of New York early in the Revolutionary War. The retreat of the north of the Fort Necessity was inglorious, but not so horrifying as it debacle which occurred nearby in the next year. General Braddock took his forces to Redcoat into the ambush. Serving under Washington was in command of Virginia militia. Through suffering in his high fever, he rallied and rescued remnants of the army, and after a proud general died of his wounds. 3 years later, Washington was back in the West, accompanying another English general who went to his death. John Forbes was already ill when carried in a litter he followed as a deputy. Banquet and Washington led a new army back to Fort of Ohio, where upon the ruins of Fort Duquesne, the city of Pittsburgh was founded. The defining political event in the formation of years in Washington's generation of British conquest in Canada and the Mississippi Valley, the former removed the French power in North America in 1762, exceeded the most exuberant expeditions in the British colony, and the collapse of the Russian Oh, check this out. The North America, okay, and the collapse of the Russian communism was transcended to those of their descendants. You see the year? Let me read this again. The former removal of the French power of North America and in 1763 exceeded the most exuberant expeditions of the British colonials, and the collapse of the Russian communism had transcended those of their descendants. Second only to the withdrawal of the threat of the French with the frontier was a fact that Americans had a part in the drama. A number part, and many of those had been taught to consider their betters. They saw the British in defeat. They knew Braddock's disaster could have been avoided by taking the advice of Benjamin Franklin and Washington. During Banquet's successful campaign to redeem the defeat, the Virginians demonstrated that they had knew how to fight very well when they had decent leadership, and that were acquainted with their western terrain. So that sounds like the Siberians right there. That sounds like when the inhabitants of the Siberians came into the Americas because of that whole situation right there. These hidden cities, these hidden equations that actually come into fruition when you just read in between the lines. And that's how it goes most of the times. So you have to understand when America started becoming a European colony, just bringing Russian Siberians. You see what I'm saying? Seems like I'm chopping up, y'all. I'm gonna cut this show short tonight because seems like my computer like is running some checks or something. But we may go back for tuning into the Wilderness Podcast. I always like tuning in and giving you some knowledge that you need to know about those little intricate pieces. Just putting a little paint where it ain't. But understand me well. You know what it is. Come on, say it with me. The will is yours. For sure. Y'all stay tuned and be easy. I might be back. Got to work on this latency issue I got going over here upstairs. That's why I don't come up.